Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla, bringing you another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today, I suppose we will have perhaps a continuation of what we've been talking about. Perhaps I'm going to throw a curveball. I don't got a clue. I don't got a clue. I guess I didn't really mention it a lot yesterday, but it is getting to the point where I feel like it's kind of frustrating because I think the quality and the level. I've kind of noticed when I look at other commentators and things, and not even just in politics, but people who make channels. I mean, a lot of people have way bigger followings than me, and they don't even have good equipment necessarily. They probably don't put that much thought into a lot of this stuff that I have. I mean, I've really tried to make things a lot more perfect, and they do fine. I mean, like they won't, like the audio won't sound good and all that. And I think me in a car is in some ways, it's sounding pretty good. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of money, but if I had some of the income levels that these people had, I think I could make a way better show. So, I don't know. I guess it's a matter of time thing. I looked into it, and there are plenty of examples of artists where their work didn't really catch on until later. It took a while, and I'm assuming I'm an example of that. But I don't personally think there's as many people producing the output that I'm producing, given the amount of, or the lack thereof, of free time. I really don't think that that's the case. I mean, I have no time to chill. I don't really have any time to relax, right? I'm out of my house for 60 hours a week. You know what I mean? So, a lot of people complain about working a 40-hour week and then they don't have a channel. They don't have to do any of this extra stuff. I'm out here working 50 some hours and then also having the channel to maintain, and my output is high. My output is dangerously high, might I add. So it's been something. It's this experiment has been something, but I guess it still hurts that I just, people are not watching, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to fix that, but maybe I just need to focus on what I'm doing. Stuff takes time. I'm going to have to learn how to do stuff and things like that, Now, anyways, I kind of think that a lot of people don't understand and don't care to understand a lot of these ambitions for the future. I think that is the problem. It's just, I get so confused with people. With how they, I don't know. But anyways, because we're talking about this thing where I just don't know that people have I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird to say as a 23-year-old, but I almost wonder if most people's comprehension of humanity is worse than mine, even though I'm only 23. I don't really know what else to draw from it, but I don't know. I guess it's also an alignment of priorities. I mean, a lot of people may hear Peter Thiel talking and just think he's a psychopath, and then they continue to live a mediocre life. and not really do much about it. I don't know. I guess that's how a lot of people think. I mean, a lot of people do think in the short term and just want to be comfortable. They want people to be comfortable. I assume so. I assume that's really what most people want. I don't really know how much people care about progress or things getting better. I'm just not sure that that's really something anybody cares about. I think most people just want to live life, eat, have friends, the usual things. And if anything, modern life has stopped that from being the case and people are unhappy. But like I said, I think we're going through some type of cleansing. And it's dark. I mean, I don't know. But I think you're, again, a little bit naive to think that isn't what's going on, that there won't be a lot of people that get hurt. And like I said, I think the elites have been at this for a while. This is nothing new. But the question becomes, is it necessary or not? Because technically nothing could be necessary. That is, I guess, a philosophy to hold. Like, we could just hit a point where humanity is just kind of maxed out, and then we don't really move forward. But I don't know how good that is. Like I said, I agree with the stagnation thesis that humanity has not changed very much for a while now. I think that's a really important point to bring up, and how it could be negatively impacting our mental health. I mean, I think that's really the truth of it, is that stagnation is not really good for humans. But what happens when the median human is ill-equipped to take the next step? I mean, I just don't know. I'm always shocked at how, well, not only of my own shortcomings, which is more important, but just other people I interact with, and how much of a mess their life is, how disorganized, unorganized it is. It really amazes me, and it's a particular strength that I have, and I'm obviously very grateful to have it, of timing and organization, because I think it's going to be very important now that we're in the digital age. Navigating it is a super important skill, because the tech creates more chaos. It creates more disorganization. So the people who are organized above average are going to win, because tech, as I said before, it exacerbates inequality. It makes the strong stronger and the weak weaker. It makes the magnetic more magnetic. It makes the electric more electric in terms of personalities and how good of lives people will have as a result of those things. It just exacerbates. That's all tech does. And so it's important to bear in mind, you know? It's all important stuff to bear in mind. And that's what's already happening and what will continue to happen, and there's going to be a lot of people who are just lost. I think what's important to note, though, is that a lot of this stuff, I mean, you can blame Peter Thiel, but what about just the way humans interact causes this stuff? I don't know that it's specifically his fault. I mean, the only way you would prevent a lot of these things is if you just didn't have technology exist, or you had it exist in a very restricted state, which I suppose is possible. You know, you could say, well, if these people know it's going to do this, it should have been further regulated, which I actually agree with that. I think, you know, probably should have stopped at flip phones or something like that. Or you do need a heavily regulated tech space. So I agree with that, actually. But I'm assuming there's a bigger scheme at work. I don't think it's all random. I don't think it's all just about money either, because like I said, I have a feeling that there are going to be some rich people who get hurt too in this upcoming change that society is going through, because there's a lot of rich people who aren't particularly good at contributing. Just because they have a lot of money, they're not really doing a lot for society. So they might get cut too, and I think it's going to come from all angles. It's just about meritocracy more so than oligarchy. Is that what is... Which I guess, what, does that sort of go hand in hand? Maybe. Maybe it does. Because a heavily meritocratic society is going to have further inequality. So that sort of makes sense. But yeah, I don't remember exactly what I was saying. It's a shame. I feel like some of the energy I had is dying down a little bit, at least for this episode. I felt like the past couple episodes I was really on fire. Now it's kind of like, well, I'm still here, but I don't know, some of that fire is lost, I feel. I don't know. Kind of sad, but that's life, right? That's just life. Now, what else is there to comment on? Oh, I remember what I was talking about. My apologies, guys. How much of it is Peter Thiel's fault, and how much of it is humanity's fault? Because if humanity was so great and caring, we would have never let someone like him start Palantir. We would have never let the government spy on us in the first place after 9/11. But we did. We basically just let it happen. I'm sure there was some protest, but I don't know. I think a lot of people went along with it. A lot of people don't like it. Even now, a lot of people don't like it. But people went along with it. There wasn't that much protesting. There wasn't. So I think it's our fault. And I think that the reason why is because humanity and humanity's behavior is very predictable. It's very predictable, and it's rare that you have uprisings, especially in this day and age. In this day and age, I think I explained it in the last episode, people have a lot of stress and anxiety, but in terms of their actual day-to-day life, things still function, and people are very dependent on the system. And so without independence, you can't really have a revolution. I think at the end of the day, people are too inundated with addiction and vices to really have the strength to pull off some kind of a revolution. And so you're seeing things play out in a way that probably hasn't played out before. I just don't know that people care enough. And the key thing is that people care enough in a universal way, because this would have to transcend ideological lines. It would have to transcend party lines. People are really divided right now, and that is not fruitful for revolution. So I don't think it can happen. I think it's over. And as I said in the last episode, mass surveillance has already been submitted to, and it's just a matter of rolling it out. I don't think there's any way any of this stuff is going to get rolled back. And I just don't know. I feel like it's crazy if you blame these people when I think it's a deeper issue with human behavior and human ignorance. The blood is on the hands of our parents' generation, who I, in speaking to, seem supremely ignorant because they lived during the golden age, right? So everything was super easy for them. And now you're actually navigating a system where there's more financial accountability. That's important. Because now the bills are getting tight. Income's getting low. You have to be smarter about things, and we are. Data shows it. Gen Z is far more money mindful overall than previous generations, and yet we still don't have as much. It's provable. Now, granted, that's an average. It's not accurate. Like I told you, Gen Z is a very I'm trying to think of the word. Separated, compartmentalized. It's a very compartmentalized generation where you have some people within Gen Z who are richer, more successful than their parents were. This is a very small amount, but it's still notable. And then you also have people who are, then the rest, like middle class and lower. Well, some upper class. It's not necessarily class. But it's the bottom 80%-ish are a lot worse than their parents. And not only just in terms of income, but just ability to function. I almost want to say their ability to function is poorer than their parents were. Which, again, that's the thing a lot of people complain about, is the dream always was that your kids had a better life than you, and that is done, as far as I'm concerned. If it isn't already the case, if it hasn't already been the case, it is definitely now. I think we can say for certain that most Gen Z people who choose to have kids, their children will not have better lives in terms of wealth. Most people. But again, I really think the interesting thing to think about is that it's not money, because there's a lot of rich people with kids that have the same issues, and then there's a lot of poor people that have kids, and that's always been the case. So a lot of people who are Gen Z who say they're not having kids because of the economy, I think it's cope for an underlying concern. I think that's an issue with polling in general when we try to understand humans, is that a lot of the time there could be an underlying issue and they just say, oh, it's money. But people don't really have that deep of a comprehension of who they are or what they want. So when somebody says it's money and that's why they're not having a kid, there's a deeper issue there. And I think there's also that error in judgment that we've talked about before, which is I care about other people more than myself. I've met so many people who say that. I think basically everybody claims that. Now they claim it. I don't think any of them actually follow through with that, because I've interacted with people, and I don't think my generation particularly has any understanding of what it means to live a sacrificial life and to really be there for the other person in any real or significant way. I think people claim that, but they don't actually know what that would even mean or look like. And it's also a convenience thing. It seems easier to say that I don't care about myself, but I care about other people. It seems easier, but it's not. It's actually harder to care about someone else than it is yourself. I think so. Now, I guess the only flaw with that statement is I am coming at that from my own perspective, and it's possible that a lot of people, maybe it is easier for them to look at others as opposed to look inward, but I just have such a hard time understanding, even given that, because again, a lot of times it is hard for people to look into themselves, and they judge other people a lot. But it's kind of scary for people to be alone and to actually have to think their own thoughts. It's still very difficult for me to believe that it is not just inherently true that... Sorry, this is just getting... We're getting a little bit too deep. I'm not even talking about what I thought I would, but that's fine. I like this conversation. It just seems impossible to me that it would be easier to know someone else than to know yourself. It is, I don't know what else to say to that, really. Because you have yourself and you have your thoughts, and as much as it may be scary to some, it's there, and you don't have to make many assumptions, because you are you, and you know how you are, or you can know how you are. I think other people, it gets very complicated. It gets very complicated to be exactly who another person would want you to be, especially because most people are not even good at communicating that. So other people don't, like, that's the reason why I think surface level, it seems like it would be easier to, I'm not going to care about myself and I can understand someone else, because thinking about myself is scary, understanding my flaws is scary, but if I'm helping someone else with their flaws, it's almost a little bit of an ego thing. And that's kind of, I guess, the irony of it, is that in a way it's egotistical, in a way it's selfish, because you're And I've gone into this many times, how yes, it is selfish if you genuinely believe that you care about other people, but yourself you don't care about, or you're good at giving advice, but you don't, but taking advice for yourself, no, those are all deeply selfish. And I guess it's possible that there's a percentage of people who aren't selfish, who have those beliefs, but it is mostly a selfish cope. It's mostly an ego thing. Because at the end of the day, it's excusing self-destructive behavior, and anything that's damaging or destructive to the self is selfish. Because I don't know why this is hard for people to understand. If you are trashing your health and your hormones are off, and then you're having trouble sleeping, your diet's off, which correlates a lot with hormonal production and sleep and melatonin production, then you're irritated. You're more irritable. You have less patience. You have less clarity of thought. You have more brain fog. When you choose to binge TikTok and then afterwards you have brain fog, you are doing a disservice to every single person you interact with. If you're in a relationship, there's no way that you can be appropriately present for that relationship. If you have friends, there's no way you're as interactive with those friends as you could be if you had taken care of your health. Even in minor ways, even in just random stranger interactions. Maybe you don't smile at a person that maybe you would have smiled at. Maybe you don't wave to someone who you would have waved at. It kills society. Those kind of mindsets are the antithesis to a functioning society. So care about the self comes first. You do need to take care of yourself. And that's the only way that you will be able to care about others properly. You can never care about other people until you got yourself figured out. And so there's a lot of people who realize this, and so they come up with this cope mindset that, oh, well, I can just say that I like other people more than myself, and so I care about other people more than myself, and then now I don't have to take care of myself, because it seems too daunting. It seems too tall of an order, too heavy of a task. But little do they realize that caring for another person is just as, if not more, of a daunting task, because not only do you have to deal with your own stresses and issues that you have, but you also have to navigate and be there for somebody else. So it falls apart. People who say that, don't get in a relationship with them. Don't become friends with them. And if that sounds harsh, I don't really know what else to say, because what else is there to do? You can't convince somebody. I don't think you can convince someone like that. I've known a lot of people like that. And they'll either end up changing when it's too late, when times get tough, then they'll just kind of naturally change and maybe not even put much thought into it. But I mean, that's really the problem, is now you're able to have fictitious ideologies with no accountability. And people aren't able to give good cutting advice or anything like that. That's obviously a huge problem. I think obviously with what I'm doing right now, I'm having a fairly comprehensive breakdown of these things. But most people, I've never heard anybody else have a similar depth or level of conversation. It could happen, but I've never seen it. I think that's the important thing, right? So I'm trying to provide that. I guess the benefit is to navigate my own thoughts and eventually get somewhere with it. But I guess that's the truth of it, is that with such an uncaring and numb, cold populace, how do we get where we need to get? How do we have progress? Because we're seeing pretty huge progress limitations right now. And it's not too good, is it? And that's why I don't think people have the concept of someone like Peter Thiel or even other futurists, because people don't want to have to admit that they genuinely need to change, they need to buckle down and be accountable. Don't think people want to admit that. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but I just wonder if it's a painful truth. You know, I don't really know how else to put it. I've said before on this show, from my understanding of it, I think a lot of left-wing economic policy makes a lot of sense, especially in our current climate. But I don't know that would correlate with humans properly taking that and utilizing it properly, and really being properly appreciative and optimizing things in the way that's necessary for modern society. I almost worry that humans are not even at that cognitive state, which I know it sounds elitist, but I just see it. So you would need, this was the main thing I guess this is the point I'm going to have to end on. People don't want rules. People don't like following rules. So that's the only way things would work, is there'd have to be a lot of rules for people to follow. And nobody wants to do that. And I think people are unwilling to see the consequences of not following the rules. But yeah, there would have to be a lot of pretty strict rules in place in order to win, in order to make things work. And that's just not here. Because people don't want that. People want to be free to do whatever they want. And if people don't understand why they have to follow a rule, which a lot of people won't, then that's it. They're just not going to want to do it. And that's why I don't know what we're supposed to do as a society. Anyways, it's been Schla, but now it's time to buy Schla. So, see ya, Schla.